This is Classwork Exercise 2. We're going to be doing a number of tasks. We're going to understand how to take a CSV, comma-separated variable data file, and bring it into a new database. We're going to learn how to add records and fields to that database, and we're going to learn how to create a validation technique to check that the data entered into the database is indeed valid. Make sure for this exercise you've copied the CE2 folder to your H drive, and the CE2 folder should contain at least the CE2.doc assignment sheet and members.csv. This is the data file that you're going to need to use. So in this exercise we're going to look at a library called Newington Library. It has a junior section. It caters for young people up to the age of 16. And the librarian wishes to computerize the school records, and his requirements are explained on the task sheet. And the first thing we're going to do is look at this data file which is provided, called a CSV file. I'm going to open the CE2 folder, and you'll see the members.csv file there. If you right click on that, you should be able to find a way to open it, and we want to open it just with Notepad, and you should see here all the data in that file. In this data file you'll notice that the first line contains what are called the field descriptors: membership number, first name, surname, sex, date of birth, street, town and postcode, and then underneath all the data here separated by commas, hence it's called a comma separated file. At this point it would be good for you to look at the Classwork Exercise 2 task description sheet 1 and fill out the questions marked on as task 1. After you've completed task 1, we're going to move on to task 2. Here in task 2 we're going to create a new database. In order to do that we're going to use a database software program called Microsoft Access. I've pinned it to the taskbar here, and you should be able to locate this on your machine and pin it to the taskbar. If I double click on Access, you should see it open up with this page. If you select blank database, this box here, it should create a blank desktop database, and we want to give this a file name, so we're going to call this library, and we're going to create the database. You'll notice that Microsoft Access has an extension ACCDB, Access Database. I click on Create, and it's going to create a blank database. If I click back now to the CE2 task description sheet, you'll see that we have looked at CSV data files. We've now created a new database called library. The next task is task 3. We're going to import the text file of data into the database. We're now going to close the database that we created. So I'll close that. It's been saved. I'll shrink the task description sheet. I'm going to start up Access again. I'm going to begin task 3. You'll probably find your database in the name of recent databases here, and you'll see library ACCDB. I'm going to select that, and it opens the recently created database. We're going to import the text file into the database. When the database is opened, what we're going to need to do is select external data, and then you'll see lots of different file types described: Excel, Access, ODBC as a different type of database. But here you'll notice text files, so we can take information from a text file into this database. It's called importing. So we're going to select text file, and then I'm going to browse to find this text file. If you click Browse, on my computer it's easy to locate the folder. I've got it in Wix Library here, but you need to find the folder on your home drive where you've stored the CE2 files. Indeed, we're looking for members.csv. Select members.csv, we open that, and this is the source now listed, the data file it's going to take, and it's going to import that source data file into a new table in the new database, so we'll have the data in the database. Then we just select OK. Here's all the data, and here you see it's separated by commas, and the first line has got the field names. So it's not fixed width, this data is actually separated by commas. Characters such as comma or tab separate each field. So this is a delimited data set. We're going to select next. Now we're going to look at the separated data here. It's detected the commas and separated the data out column by column. We need to click this box to tell the database that the first row contains the field names. Now you'll notice all the field names separated from the data. Now click next. The next key question for us to work out is what is going to be I should say that we be a good idea to screen dump this, which I'm going to do now. So shift print screen, and I'm going to go over to a Word document here, and I'm going to edit, paste, and underneath here I'm going to put a note that this contains, here is a screenshot of the CSV file being imported into the database. Then we go back to Access, and I'm going to click on Next. Now I'd like to select a key field. This means a unique field, and in this case the membership number is unique to every single data record. I'm not going to allow the computer to generate its own key field called ID. I'm going to choose my own primary key, and here you see all the fields listed, and membership number is the one that I want. So now this becomes the key field to identify individual records. Click on Next. And we're going to import all this data into a table called, well in this case it's called members. That sounds good to me. And I'll finish that. Access will now have all the field names and the data in the database. That seems good to me for now. I'm not going to save the import step, so I'll close that, and you'll see that we've got a table called members. And we can click on that table called members, and if I do so, I'm just going to close that. There, that's not really that long. Click on members, and you'll see all the members now in the database. It looks to me as if there are about 15 or 20 members, and I can go up and down with my arrows, and I can go across with the arrow keys. I'm going to take a screen dump to prove that I've actually imported this data. So I'll do shift print screen again, go back to writer, and I'm going to paste that in there, and I'll write underneath here, here is my screenshot of the data now imported into the database. Now, just to recap, in Classwork Exercise 2 we've looked at CSV data files, we created the database, we've imported a text file into the database. Task 4, we're now going to add records of data manually, and we'll look to add also some extra fields to the database. But first, task 4, adding data records to the data in the database manually. So going back to the database, and if you scroll down the records right down to the end, you'll notice the last record is Mark Johnson, and if you click on the first name in the next space for a record here after Mark Thompson, we can introduce a new record, and we can type in that record, and in this case I'm going to type myself, Paul Corney, I'm male, I can put a date of birth, put an address. And this is in Newington, and there's a suitable postcode. Oh dear. I think I should have. Of course, it's complaining here because I haven't entered in a suitable membership number. Now this would have to be unique. I'm going to make it up now, but make sure that you use a unique membership number. So 831777. And now I've got a new record added to the database. I'm going to do a screen dump now, showing that I've added a record. So I'll do a shift print screen there, go back to my Word program, and I'll paste that in, and I'm going to type here, I have added record or membership number. Now if we go back and check the membership number, 831777 831777. And that completes task 5. Go back to the database, and now you'll notice we've got all the records listed down here, and here are all the fields listed across here. Now what we'd like to do in task 5 is to insert a new field. Now we'd like to have a field, and I'm interested in inserting a field for the initial, so I'm going to try and insert that by here. So I'm selecting first name. I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to select insert field. That's created a space for the fields. In here we can put the initials E, P, H, D, and so on all the way down. You can do that, and just cancel that, sorry. And there's the next field there. If you continue all the way down, you should be able to fill it out. You now can see I've included all the initials right down to the bottom. I select the field name. I right click here. You see one of the options here is rename field. I don't want it to be called field. I think I'll rename this initial. And now we've got an extra field called initial. I'll take a screen dump again of the database with the extra field, shift print screen, going back to writer. I'm going to paste that in there, and then I'm going to add a comment about this. You can see I've added a field called initial. Might be good at this point to make sure we've saved this database, so I'm going to go across and click on the floppy disk icon here and click save, and then I can close this database before moving on to task 6. We've now completed task 1 to 5. We're going to finish off by looking at task 6 to add a validation technique to the fields in the database. We don't want people adding data to this database which is not valid data. It could be crazy dates of birth, a strange letter for a gender, numbers being entered in for where we're expecting a name. So we're going to need to open the database and introduce a validation technique. So I'll start up Access again, and I'm going to go to, I'll just close that window, I'm going to go to Library, which is one of the recent files we've been working on. I'm not creating a blank database. You should be able to do the same. There's the members database, and if I click on the table members, you see all the members, you'll see the initials, you'll see all the fields that we added, and there they all are. If you're wondering where the record we added is gone, it's now in the middle because the records have been listed according to the membership number from smallest to largest. So Paul Corney's gone into the middle. I need to explain one thing to you now, and that is you can look at a database in two ways at least. We've been looking at viewing the database here, looking at the data. You'll see an icon across here on the left. If you click on it, you'll notice it switches now to what's called, instead of from a data view, data sheet view, when we look at the data, we're now looking at design view. You can actually see this more clearly. If you click on the arrow below, you'll see the two options: data sheet view, there's the data, click on the arrow, design view, this is the design of the database. You see all the field names, you see the data types for the data listed here, whether they're text, date and time, number, and at the bottom we've got some more details on each one. As I'm going through, you'll see there are more details that we can set, and I'm very interested in looking at the rules that belong to date of birth. Now, date of birth is a date time type data, and you'll see here there's a validation rule box. Now, we're able to put a rule in here, and the rule I'm interested in is putting in a rule which says the date must be greater than the 1st of January 2000. Now, this means that no one greater or older than being born in 2000 is going to be allowed to, their date of birth is not going to be allowed to be entered. And you'll notice as soon as I enter the date of birth, it's gone and put hash marks around the date there. Now, in addition to putting in that rule, it would be good to put some text in here which would appear if people tried to put in a date which was invalid. So I'm going to put in here, you must put in a date after 2000. And there we go. Having put a validation rule on date of birth, we could similarly put a rule on gender. For example, gender, it can only be male or female. So the validation rule here might be, I'll only accept M, inverted commas, or F, in inverted commas. There's the validation rule put in there. And the validation text should be enter gender, it must be male or female. So I'll put validation text in there. Gender must be M or F. Right, now we can go back to the data view. I'll just save the table. Go back to the data view. I'm now going to try and add in a new person, so I'll put in a dummy number. I can put an initial, a name. Now if I put S in there, it's not going to like it. Gender must be M or F. Okay, so it's male, and the date of birth, maybe I got this wrong and I put the 1st of the 1st 1999. Your date's got to be after 2000. Okay. Now it's got to be after 2000. So it's got to be after the 1st of January 2000. So I put the 1st of February, and it's accepted that. And now I can put in an address. And I'll use the same postcode there, copy that, and I'll type it in. It's in Newington. And there's our new record in there, and we've done the validation. Now what I'd like you to do is to produce some screenshot evidence to show that you designed the validation checks and that they worked. If you have any questions on this, ask your teacher or replay this video. I'm just going to save this file and I'm going to close. I hope you've enjoyed Classwork Exercise 2.